Hello everyone and welcome to a game some of you might have seen, some of you might have even seen on my channel. I covered it some 6 years ago, but back then I made really short videos. I only focused on one line, maybe two, that were really nice, and okay, it made for a very shorter video. But if you would like to see that instead, the first link in the description below will take you back some 6 years, and you will also be able to enjoy Medo on the couch behind me. But now I'm going to cover it a bit more in depth. It was played in 1954, and it's the first encounter between these two legends. Mikhail playing board 1 for Latvia, and Keres, the Estonian powerhouse, as I've referred to him in that video, also playing board 1 for Estonia. And it's a wonderful game because it's a clash of two styles. Style representing his crazy, sacrifices and crazy attacking brilliance, whereas Keres, he's more of a counter-attacker, and also it appears he's a very calm player. He's very, come at me, but then all of a sudden you're the one getting crushed. So it's very different styles, and of course that tends to bring out the best for our viewing pleasure. And Tal was some 17 years old at the time this was played. Keres was much older. He was already pushing 40, some 37, maybe 38. So there's quite a difference. And if you relied mostly on your ability to calculate well, you would not be able to play against younger players at this level. But as you will see, Keres relies on something else, so he's able to fend off the best of the attackers. And as you know, Tal is often referred to as the magician from Riga, and well, if anything, Keres was impervious to magic. So let's see how it went here. And yeah, also maybe it's important to mention, because I've already said that there's quite an age difference here, Keres being 37 and Tal being 17. Keres, some 17 years ago when Tal was born, Keres was playing the likes of Capablanca and Alechin and beating them, convincingly. So yeah, he's an incredible player, and no doubt, without a doubt, a very good reason why they refer to him as the strongest player never to become world champion, alongside some others, maybe from different eras. But yeah, and also, if you look at their maybe lifetime score, okay, we could also mention that maybe at the end of the video. But Keres always had a good result against attacking players. If you remember the 1959 Candidates Tournament, and if you're an older subscriber, no doubt you remember that. Here are the final standings of the 1959 Candidates Tournament. You can see that Tal won with 20 points out of 28, but second place Keres with 18.5. However, even though Tal crushed everyone, like he defeated Benko and Bobby Fischer in this tournament with a score of 4-0. It's a quadruple round robin, and Tal defeated Fischer 4-0. He defeated Benko 4-0, but he lost to Keres 1-3. So yeah, but he was able to trick everyone else, and thus he won the tournament. But okay, let's check out this game and why it's so important. First clash of these two legends. Let's see it. Tal has the white pieces, and he opens with pawn to d4. Keres replies with knight to f6. Sorry about that. And we have pawn to c4. We have pawn to g6 and knight to c3. Okay, the standard King's Indian defense setup. Bishop to g7 and now pawn to e4. Striking in the center, this is the standard stuff. Pawn to d6, knight to f3, castles kingside, and bishop to e2. We have pawn to e5 and bishop to e3. Waiting for the capture on d4, but no, Keres invites at the pawn push. We have pawn to d5, knight to e7, and pawn to h3. Okay, nothing new, played even today. We have knight to d7, preparing pawn to f5, knight to d2, and okay, even though it's a similar position to what we could have today, it was new back then. And even though it was repeated once in the year 2000, here after pawn to f5, it was in this position on move 10 back in 1954 that this was now a completely new game, and players were entering unexplored territory. So of course, you do not want to meet pawn to f4 with this setup. Tal plays pawn to f3, We have f captures on e4, knight d captures on e4, and now knight to f5, putting pressure on Tal's bishop. So you could bring it back, bishop to f2, but Tal attacks the queen, queen to g5, and now knight to f6. And this is by far the best. Blocking with the bishop, Tal would happily capture it, and he would enjoy the bishop pair. And if you move the queen, then knight to b5, and already black is close to losing the game. So bishop to so knight to f6 definitely the only way to play. We have bishop to d3 by Tal, and queen to e8. Now now you can play it because now knight to b5 is met with this very cool tactic. Knight captures on e4, and after f captures, knight to g3, attacking the rook. So you don't have time for knight captures on c7 because queen f7 attacks the knight and threatens queen to f2, and there's not much you can do. Rook g1, rook f7, and the white's position is just horrible, and there are no threats here. Okay, objectively maybe you can play it, but why would you? So after queen to e8, we have knight to e2, and now knight captures on e4, bishop captures on e4, and bishop to f6, going for further trades. Bishop captures on f6, we have rook captures on f6, and now Tal goes queen to d2. He wants to infiltrate with the queen. Pawn to c5, saying, okay, you either capture right away on d captures on c6, en passant, or we have a closed center, and then, you know, no more attacking here. So Tal captures, d captures on c6, we have b captures, and now, well, you could play many things here, like castle's queen side would go a long way for Tal, but Tal strikes with g4 right away. Not want to thoroughly plan an attack before executing it. We have knight to e7, and castle's king side by Tal. We have bishop to a6, putting pressure on c4, b3, and now Keres strikes with d5. And this is something that I find remarkable in the games of Paul Keres, regardless of who he's playing or you know, in what period of his life. He always finds that central breakthrough that equalizes the game. So, okay, d5, we have queen to g5, the rook hanging on f6 makes it possible for Tal to complicate the position a little bit, and queen to f7. Now, what do you play here? It's an incredibly complicated position where Tal decided to move the bishop to d3. Yes, okay, this is attacked many times, but also the rook is hanging if the queen moves. That makes bishop to d3 possible. I would just like to show you one cool line that no doubt Tal calculated before playing bishop to d3, or maybe he didn't. If you remember that Kasparov interview, Kasparov said that Tal didn't calculate. Tal, you know, it was like he was able to see the matrix and he knew the answer right away, and he was maybe the only player ever to be able to do that. But, you know, for the rest of us that have to calculate, knight to g3, we will explore it. No doubt Tal looked at it. I mean, who wouldn't? D captures, knight captures on e4, attacking the rook, rook to f4, and now queen captures on e5. And you might ask, okay, we're up 2 pawns, we're down a piece, where is the compensation? Well, the compensation is after, let's say, rook to f8, rook 8 to e1, and it's very hard for black to make a move. Rook captures on f3, does not work. You're just gonna get crushed on the king side. And after knight to d5, and this is the only move. That's interesting. Yeah, any other move is just bad for black. Knight to d5, you have to give back the knight, but now knight to g5, attacking the queen, and after queen f6, offering a queen trade, now pawn h4. And okay, now we can trade, let's say captures. The knight remains in the game, but now pawn to h5. And this is what our good friend the engine likes in 2024, as the other video I made was like 2018 with weaker engines, of course. And how do you continue this? Knight to e6 will put pressure on the rooks, and if something like bishop to c8, the defending bishop to, knight to e6, then you can play captures, and after captures, okay, white is down a piece but up 2 pawns, so it's you know, an equalish position. You can't really capture on a2, otherwise you allow rook to d1, you also allow rook to a1, and if the 2 rooks infiltrate the 7th rank, then you're already close to losing this game. And the knight covers f3, it's on a dark square, so can't really be attacked by the bishop, can't really be attacked by the rooks as the f5 square is covered, so it's a tricky position. But yeah, just thought you guys might enjoy this. So bishop to d3, and now d captures on c4. We have bishop captures on c4, bishop captures, b captures, queen captures, of course, impossible because of queen captures on f6. And now well, queen to e6, maybe you can play it something like this, but then knight to g3, and it's very, very complicated. The white will get an h. So rook to f8, the move that Keres plays, is by far the best, and now you have to really be careful. Queen captures on e5 by Tal, rook to e6, nicely connecting. We have queen to h2. You have to defend the rook, the knight, and now rook to e3. We have knight to g3, and queen captures on c4. Probably Tal was thinking Keres will play captures on f3, and it's a really fine line. For example, queen to g2, now queen captures on c4, and after rook captures, there's this queen to d4 check, picking up the rook. And let's say king h2, you're going to capture on f3. Let's say queen captures on a1, and after queen to a3, defending the pawn and attacking the pawn and knight, you will play knight c8, defend the a7 pawn, and you will be up a pawn. Okay, it is a pawn up, it's a passed pawn, but with the black king so wide in the open, chances are this should be a draw. But it was, you know, an interesting idea. Of course, Keres decides to go for an even stronger line and plays queen captures on c4. I just realized I wanted to show you something, but in the end I didn't. Sorry, what is this? Yeah, there's a nice photo of Keres playing Tal. It's not from this game, obviously, as Keres in the photo has the white pieces, but it is also played in Tallinn only in 1959. I even made a... well, let's enjoy it a bit more. I even made a video on it called Tallinn. So if you haven't seen it, will be the first link in the description below if you want to check it out. I recommend you check it out. And now, Tal's position is just bad. I mean, he has no attack. His king is open. I mean, look at the pawns on f3, h3, and g4. And he's down a pawn, and it's a passed c pawn. So how is Keres to play this? Tal counters with knight to e4. Better was rook 8 to e1. You have to get the rook into the game and try to counter the rook. But after knight to e4, queen to d4, now threatening some very nasty discoveries, and Tal plays rook 8 to d1, like nothing is happening. Keres opens up a discovery, rook d3 check. We have knight to f2, as you also now have to guard the rook on d1. Sorry about that. What? You have to guard the rook on d1, knight to f2, and now rook f captures on f3. You could also play rook captures on d1 and queen e3, but that is very, very complicated. Rook captures on f3 is a much more human approach. Rook captures on d3, rook captures on d3, and now again, rook e1, only way for Tal to defend, but Tal starts with queen to b8 with check. And for anyone else playing, when I say the only way to defend, that means you're probably going to lose the game. When it's Mikhail Tal, sometimes he plays moves that aren't maybe objectively the best, but he always finds a way to make them work. Either they're incredibly complicated, or, you know, he just gets into people's minds. But like I said, Paul Keres is one player that is, well, as we've seen many times over and over, impervious to magic. We have king to g7. King f7 would be a little bit better to defend that knight, but after king to g7, Tal doesn't take advantage of this. Rook to e1 is the way to take advantage of this. He thought queen to c7 was much better, but now queen to e3. It's the only winning move for Keres, but, you know, he finds it. Queen to e3, and now you should, well, there's not much you can do. Tal plays queen to b7. We have king to h6, now a5, maybe a little bit better, just getting that pawn down the board as far as possible before deciding on anything rash. But king to h6, and now Tal could maybe defend a little bit with something like queen to b8 to threaten queen to f8 check, and if king goes back, then maybe you go back to b2 check, and maybe you harass the black king. All in all, should still be winning, but yeah, it would be a very interesting idea. But queen to b1 was played right away, and now we have rook to d2. Again, a very interesting position. Queen to g3 check would have been better, followed by rook to f3, but this game is so complicated that, well, Keres is obviously very strong to be able to play such a position against an attacker like Tal. Rook to d2, and now Tal played queen to b3. Forcing Tal to try and force a queen trade is already a victory in itself. Will it be a victory in the game as well? That is up to you guys to decide, because next move is incredibly difficult to find. Have at it. feel free to pause the video and find the win for Paul Keres while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding a move that even the great Paul Keres missed. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is Queen to F4. That is the move. Of course, we all know what has to happen. The knight has to come here, then the knight has to come here, and then somehow we're going to checkmate the white king on g2, most likely. But Keres thought that there was no forced win, so he just offered a queen trade. The real trick is queen to f4, and now there's no way to force a queen trade, and, well, there are no good moves here. So what could you do? Let's say you go queen e6. What's the idea? The idea is just to bring the knight over to e3. It's as simple as that. Let's say queen captures on c6, knight to e3, and after, let's say, queen b5 or something, doesn't really matter. I mean, you could move the rook if you don't want to lose the rook. Obviously, this also is a huge threat, so it's hard to say how white would continue here. White is getting checkmated. It's merely a matter of how you want to get checkmated. So it's very odd. Keres missed this, but unfortunately for these older games, I don't have the exact situation on the clock, so it could be that he was low on time, as many people were when playing against Tal. He started with knight to d5 right away, and he allowed Tal to trade queens, but Tal, even though it's the only move that doesn't lose you, I mean, you can trade, for example, captures, the rook is attacked, let's say rook e1, knight to d5, and okay, rook c1, you trade some pawns, captures, and you now play this endgame, you're down a pawn, black has the outside past a pawn. If you play well, maybe you can defend. So that was the only way to do it. But Tal had to throw in a Tal move. It's one of the reasons we love Tal, is because he throws a Tal move out of nowhere, and you know, sometimes it works wonders, sometimes, especially against a strong player like Keres, it doesn't, but he plays pawn to g5. And yes, I imagine, and especially with this move and the previous one, that Keres was low on time. That's why maybe Tal tried to throw in a fast one. There are two moves that are great here, and there are two moves that are bad, and one that is terrible. So what could you play here? Well, it's important to play either king to h5 or queen captures. You most certainly don't want to play king captures on g5, because then the king is in reach of the knight. You can simply trade queens, now captures, and now knight to e4 check. Knight e4 lands with a check. Doesn't matter where the king goes, you're going to capture here, and then after captures and captures, you are up a full piece. Yes, down 2 pawns, but still up a knight. So that's the problem. But Keres did not fall for that. He just played king to h5. He doesn't care. And now look at this. We have queen to b7 going after the h7 pawn. Queen to g3 check by Keres, king to h1, and now rook captures on f2. He doesn't care about the check on h7. Queen captures on h7 with check, king captures on g5, and now pawn to h4 with check. And here, Paul Keres just played king to f6, and he was in this position on move 43 that Mikhail Tal resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Checkmate is being threatened here, and that's pretty much it. If you don't play king to f6, well, one last try was queen captures on f2, but I mean, why would you play that? To deflect the queen from defending the rook. But after king f6, yeah, there's just nothing more to try here. Queen h2 will be checkmate, and even if you trade like captures and captures, still, I mean, you're down a full piece. There's no compensation here. The king will be able to hide. I mean, it's not even close, and yeah, of course, you have to resign. So yeah, there we have it. First ever game between the legends Mikhail Tal and Paul Keres. And what I wanted to mention is that their lifetime score playing against each other is Paul Keres 8 wins, Tal 5 wins, and 17 draws. So it's not just this game, it's not just the 1959 candidates tournament where Keres, well, pretty much obliterated Tal 3-1. You know, Tal, who won the candidates tournament and went on to face Botvinnik in 1960, and you know, he became world champion. Yes, Keres defeated Tal like that. He was just someone who did not fall for tricks. Like I said, he was impervious to magic, and Tal's you know, hypnotism did nothing for Keres. He was that strong. He played everyone he faced, you know, aside from, you know, Steinitz, pretty much every world champion that that he played throughout his life. I don't know if he played Lasker. Let me just check real quickly if Keres ever faced Lasker. I don't want to trick you guys. No, okay, so he didn't face out of the world champions. He didn't face Steinitz and Lasker, but then Capablanca, Alechin, and so on and so on. He faced pretty much everyone. I think Capablanca he defeated in the legendary Avro tournament of 1938. I could be wrong, but I think that's where he faced Capablanca and crushed him. Yeah, it's a really epic game. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you haven't seen my game Tallinn, firstly, link in the description below. And if you are new to chess, new to these characters, I also recommend checking out my playlist regarding them. I have a special playlist on Tal. I have a special playlist on Paul Keres. I have a special playlist on the, for example, 1959 Candidates Tournament. Also something to consider. And yeah, enjoy some good chess. Like I said, I wanted to cover this game in a bit more depth, and hopefully I was able to do that. I mean, it's a beautiful game. Hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, hope that did wonders for you. I would like to thank Richard Lapka, Stephen Bennett, Robert Arathun, Christopher Thompson, and Jeffrey Johnson for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.